Y'all, we live in difficult times. There's war, political unrest, the pandemic, poverty, families being torn, communities ripped by gun violence and people dying every day, police, injustice. It's all bringing so much pain. But y'all, we can look inside our minds and we can understand who we are, become better, and do this thing like we've never done it before. But it all starts with our mental health, and I know we can do it. I believe in you because I believe in me, and I believe in us. Hello, and thank you for joining in for another episode of Therapy is Life, where thinking, feeling, and experiencing well-being is what we do. I got the crew over here, Nisha, Mol G, with an A.
Thank you. 2 A's too. Don't A's. The 2 A's.
Mol G, okay.
Right.
So if anybody get caught up in the accent, we just want to make sure that you hear it right. So y'all feeling pretty good on this hot day?
Yes. It's still a blessing.
It's a blessing. Listen, I ain't gonna complain. We in Cleveland, Ohio, so when it's cold, it's cold.
Right.
I'm on, embrace the heat right now.
You're gonna embrace the heat. You're gonna feel like Superman, be outside, just feeling it all up in your body.
Right.
So, guys, since I've been doing this therapy stuff and doing this podcast, actually, we getting close to 100 episodes.
Oh, wow.
And, I'm
Kudos.
excited about that. And we have now over 1 million views.
What?
Yes.
1 million?
Over 1 million views.
That's a lot of views.
Yeah. And I want to thank y'all for y'all participation in trying to make this what it is. And as we continue to grow. And, one of the things I always say is thinking, feeling, and experiencing well-being. And, as we talk about smoke and stack and continue to talk about sinners, I want to start off talking about the idea of feeling, because there's a couple different ways we can look at it. And I thought we would start off by talking about that as we explore the life and times of Smoke, Stack, Lightning, and of course, the rest of the crew. Anyway, so when we think about feelings, there's a couple different ways we can think about it. But before I say anything else on that, I'm gonna ask my girl over here to see what her thoughts are, if she don't mind. I'm putting you on the spot.
I see you. I got you. Okay, so thinking in terms of feeling, I always go to like the expression portion of it, right? So you tend to outwardly express the emotion and the feelings that are coming to you, right?
Right.
So it could hit you at any times, and I know like I've been in a certain place, maybe had a certain smell or a sight or a sound, right? And it brought about a certain feeling, right? It evoked a certain emotion in me. So when we talk about feelings, we are talking about that core innate, like what is coming out.
And I love that, because I think that describes, when we're talking about feelings, the emotional part of it or the affect part of it. But I remember something Carl Jung said, there's thinking and then there's feeling.
Yeah.
And in feeling, according to Carl Jung's impression, feeling was based on one's values and one's belief. And so it is subjective. Like to say, I was talking to somebody today and they were saying they wanted to find them an apartment. And I asked them, how much do you want to pay for that apartment? And they said about $800. And I said to them, the market is probably somewhere way higher than that, somewhere around $1,500 or $1,600.
Right.
And so,
I say where they living
Right,
at.
right.
Where they living at?
Where they want to be.
Yeah, so their attitudes about money, their own subjective attitudes about money was dictating how they felt about what they want to spend. But the thinking part of it which is more objective, is the actual evaluation of what the who, what, when, where, and why is. Now, here's the thing. I think sometimes now we live in a world that we feeling way too much, and we ain't doing enough thinking.
True.
We just say we doing too much feeling. I feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but not considering the consequences of our actions, not considering how will it influence our destiny. We just feeling. But the other hand, you have these people that just think and they don't feel, and those people oftentimes are disconnected from things like grace and empathy and really having deep emotional connections and struggle with expressing intimate feelings because they don't spend enough time feeling anything. So they might see empathy as purely weakness.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and it seems like with that, it really would take a healthy balance of both.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Right? Like a healthy balance of both. And kind of made me think about in terms of relationship wise or from the difference between men and women, right? They say women are more emotional, right? And men are more analytical. You know, thought process, they think out the things, and then the women more so feel out the things. And not that the other aspect doesn't have that in them, it's just what they're more dominated by in their emotions. And so I think the healthy duality of both, you can't be too much one way or too much the other way. A healthy balance of both makes it work.
Right. And in fact, in dialectical behavioral therapy, we oftentimes call it DBT, they have the emotional mind and they have the wise mind. And the idea is the rational mind. So the idea is the emotional and the rational mind have to work together to create the wise mind. The wise mind is the mind that we use collecting our emotions and also considering our experiences. That's where we need to make decisions at. So we ignore one or the other. We get lost in this emotional space. Now, interestingly, as we move into the discussion about Smoke and Stack, I'm curious as to where Smoke was when it came to his brother. Do you think he was just coming from a feeling place when it came to protecting him? Or do you think he was thinking and feeling?
I personally think, and the difference between the two, I think Smoke was the more provocative one, where Stack was more feeling and emotions. I think so. To answer your question, I would say Smoke would have been coming more so from a thought perspective. I think he was more strategic in what he did. Like he thought out his actions. Maybe some of it was attached to emotional feelings, especially like when he had to kill his father. You know, but even that, I still feel like he thought that aspect out more than felt it.
I think you know, sometimes like we feel like it has to be either or, right? Two things can be true at the same time.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And I think like when it came to him, sometimes it made more sense to go with logic versus emotion. I think he would feel it and you would see it show up. You know what I'm saying? You would see it show up like in his facial expressions and the way that he moved and the pausing of it. But I do agree that it was more of a strategic process for him.
Right.
And just because you feel an emotion does not mean you have to move in the way that you feel.
Say that again?
Right? Yeah. Just because you feel it doesn't mean that it has to dictate your actions and your behavior. And I think that was something that he really actually mastered in some of the moments where that, you know, was presented on screen for us.
Yeah.
So,
You know, and it's interesting you say that because I think that mastering comes from a lot of different types of experiences. Like, you know, when I used to work in foster care and adoption, I would work with a lot of kids who had been in numerous homes and been through a whole lot of different things. And they would have often these very resistive type behaviors.
Okay.
Yeah.
And many people might call them maladaptive, but these were behaviors that they created to survive stressful situations. And so we might call them as cognitive disorders, being oppositional,
Yeah.
reactive attachment disorders. And so when you talk about smoking, the way he moved, it felt like it was calculated. Like when they went to the barn,
Yeah.
they went already prepared for there to be
Absolutely.
stuff.
Right.
So they had their weapons.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they told the man, look, you and your clan friends don't come back here anymore. They was already aware of the fact that
Yep.
something could go wrong. It wasn't that naivety there with that, like I may have had in that situation, because I hadn't been exposed to those type of experiences.
Right. And I think a lot of that came from their experience out of the area that they grew up in, being in Chicago, being around those gangsters, even ex-military, right? They were both in the military.
Yeah.
Just being in the military alone to have you being more of a tactical thinker when it comes to dealing with potential hostile situations, right?
Right,
Like
exactly.
That was. So, yeah, they were definitely, especially Smoke, very analytical in how he approached his moves.
Right. So speaking of that, they came back to the Delta, to Mississippi, to open up the juke joint, right? Did you think that was more of an escape, or did they really see it as an opportunity to really have wealth and live a comfortable life? Thinking about this, like they came back home after being in the war, after going to Chicago, I think even working with Al Capone, perhaps, experiencing all this stuff. Obviously, they had some money, but they come back to a town where there's a whole lot of white cotton, a whole lot of shacks, a whole lot of racial disparity, and they believe that they can open up this juke joint and I guess make some money. What you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or was it more of an escape? Y'all tell me. Help me
Escape
out.
from, well, I think they were being
Or both.
ambitious in their thinking related to seeing at the times that they were living in, right? Knowing that, the best opportunities that blacks were given in the masses in that time frame was being the sharecropper, or being able to have whatever was left over for them to obtain in land and just opportunity in general. And so them coming from Chicago, a fast-paced moving city, seeing where, times was headed, they wanted to capitalize on that. Being, the Prohibition era was coming, they wanted to be able to come and have the stronghold or be a jump start on, providing liquor and entertainment to an area that they know was dead and depleted when it came to that. So I think they were just, they were some young, ambitious entrepreneurs, man. They were trying to, stay ahead of the game.
I also think that they were prepared though, right? Because he was ready. You know what I mean? He was ready. He had the firearms ready. So I don't even think of that. I think about the fact of historically they've had to think 2-3 steps ahead.
For sure.
Right? So let's capitalize on this movement. Let's see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what we could do in the form of it in escape. Because a lot of it, I heard that they it came across like they desired something different. They was gonna be above that time frame, above that moment, above those circumstances. So in thinking in terms of it, but I think that they were also prepared. They weren't naive in the sense of being you know what, they might not try us. They were fully prepared. So I think it was almost like a combination of both. Let's capitalize, but let's also be mindful of where we are and who we're dealing with.
Yeah, right.
It feels like when you consider what was going on at the time, that the church and the juke joint was ultimately one of the few respites or escape from the day-to-days of being on, let's say, this plantation,
Yeah.
and those were like really the only escapes these people
outlets.
had.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, sometimes when I think about that, I often associate it with, you know, the what we often find in the hood.
Right.
You find the church and the
I'm about
liquor
to say
store.
times ain't too different.
Right,
you
right,
know, it's very similar.
The
We're still
church and the
going on
liquor
to this
store.
day.
And it's like the liquor store or pharmacist is like every corner.
Yeah,
You can go
it's
get
true.
some type of
Relief.
relief.
Right.
Right.
Especially thinking about the African Americans' experience in this country.
Actually,
We haven't been able to just enjoy being citizens and feeling free and feeling like this country is ours and ours to enjoy just like it is any other race of people. And so a lot of times in our communities, the church has been an outlet historically. And then, you know, the street life, the club scene, the party atmosphere is another escape that people go to, you know, just to get away from the thinking about their everyday grind and just survive out here.
Yeah.
Is it deeply rooted? I don't know. Is it deeply rooted in the American culture that we look for something? We look for quick fixes. We look for things that lead us to feel good and escape versus dealing with the things that really hurt us.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, I admire their ambition, their drive and determination to try to make something out of themselves, and I could see how the juke joint itself, maybe we can be prosperous, but this will also maybe bring us some prestige and some recognition, and we might get some money from it. But we got to find a way to do good, because what else do we have? But in American life in general, now to this day, man, substance used to escape our realities is heavy. It's heavy. And we'll talk about that some more in the next episode. Let me ask y'all this. Do you think it's possible though? Like for like when you think about someone like Smoke and Stack, you feel like they was confident, right?
Definitely.
Do you feel like they demonstrated some level of competence? Competence, like being skilled at something, like you a barber.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we
Right.
talk. Yeah, competence. Now, what do you think happens to people that are confident, competent, but they struggle to find a way out? Like every time they accomplish something, somebody's always moving the measuring stick, moving the goalpost. What do you think happens to people when they find themselves in a cycle like that? You know, when I show up and I do what I need to do, then you're like, okay, we're gonna move the goalpost now because we don't want to deal with that reality.
Yeah, I honestly, like, in thinking like bigger terms and bigger picture, like if you think in terms of America, that is what it has been, like, especially like as for Black people as a collective, right? Where we get here, okay, well, you're uneducated, okay, we get education. Nope, that's not enough. You know what I mean? And I think like what that does is it perpetuates like the rat race of it, right?
That was
You're
the term I was
never
gonna
gonna
use.
be good enough, right?
Right.
You always no, you're gonna have to do a little bit more. You gotta work a little bit harder. No, you gotta learn this a little bit more, right? So it's always something where it's constantly making you go. And I think like we experience that so much as a whole that we don't even know. I mean, if you think in terms of just 10 years ago, 15 years ago, how many children are diagnosed with ADHD now? Can't nobody sit still. Can't nobody just sit with themselves. Can't nobody sit with their thoughts. You got to be on the phone. You got to be doing multiple things at a time. Your mind has to be split. And I think like we've really just capitalized on that. And that's what we've turned ourselves into without necessarily being very aware of what's going on. And, you know, even me and my profession, like sometimes I have to train myself, sit down, rest. Like rest can feel wrong.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, I agree with everything she just said. You know, it's the she took the term rat race, and I felt that, and I would just feel like it's like the hamster wheel, right? You constantly running on this thing that you feel like, where are you ever really being able to get to the goal line?
I think part of that is the result of this exorbitant capitalistic society we live in. But for Black people, I think it has been an anathema, like something that made us very angry and frustrated, trauma. Because when you think about what you were talking about, I remember Dr. W.D. Du Bois in The Soul of Black Folks. He said, oh, so we wanted freedom from slavery. So then you gave us freedom from slavery. Then we said, well, we needed to become voters. Well, then we became voters. And then we knew we needed to get educated. Then we became educated. And all these things we did, and then you see what happened. Reconstruction happens. We start making moves forward and everything. Boom, communities popping up where we being successful. And then all of a sudden, Jim Crow happens. And then Jim Crow happens. And then now all these rules and laws being put in place. And we have to think about it, like during the time when Smoke and Stack was doing what they was doing, I mean, lynchings were a very common thing. I think between the late 1800s to maybe like somewhere like early 1882 to about like 1968, there was like over 4,000 lynchings. And that might be a conservative number to say the least, right? But think about every time, because so much of what our people wanted to do was prove that we belong. So we got educated, we became voters, we did the things we needed to do. We went to church, we went and fought in the wars, and we did all that, and then we come back home and it's like, what?
You still get treated like trash. And that's the thing where even with Smoke and Stack, their pursuit for entrepreneurship still kind of had ties to, some illegal moves, right? They still weren't able to become entrepreneurs on full legal terms because of the society, like you said, that they were living in, and that's so deep. The time frame that he chose to make the movie, because it was in a time frame of them soldiers coming from wars and not being able to get equal job opportunities. Not being able to have equal housing opportunities. So it forces your hand, if you want to become an entrepreneur or be able to put your financial future in your own hands, to sometimes cut corners and do things that keeps you under a radar to an extent, because once you get on their radar, they're gonna find a way to chop you back down.
Exactly. So I believed. I tried to work in your system. I tried to turn every corner and drive every way you wanted me to drive. But when I did that, I still didn't get the nugget. I still didn't get the reward. Exactly. And I brought that up to say, man, listen, that intergenerational trauma that we experience when you were talking about getting rest, because of that feeling that we're not accomplishing anything, even though we're working hard, it can make you feel like you don't ever get any rest, because you don't never feel like you can stop. Like you got to always be proving yourself. But what that does is, Dr. Joy DeCrue, that creates an environment where there's this like sense of what I call empty self-esteem. Yeah, we competent, we may be confident, but no matter what we do, we don't feel like it's enough, because we were never really inspired in this environment to really believe in ourselves and understand that we are wonderfully made, and what we produce is actually the result of the fact that we are good. We was producing goods to show people that we were worthy when we were already worthy. And that sets us up to be in this scattered mind state, like always worried about crap hitting the fan, and not feeling good about ourselves and our life experiences, which then leads to the anger.
So, no, absolutely. Just the concept that you're enough, right? Because in this society that we live in, I feel like it's a constant race to reach success in a financial realm, where it's like that doesn't even equate to true joy.
Yeah.
Like just obtaining the financial wealth that we're all on a rat race to doesn't equate to the joy that you can have just in believing in yourself that you're enough.
Yeah.
Right. And accepting life as a gift within itself. You
Exactly.
know, we feel like to attain a certain financial goal is where that joy is going to be reached.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of the biggest misconceptions, but we tailor to it. You know what I mean? Like tailor our lives to it. And you know, when you were talking, I remember like growing up, and I would think about like the people that like we would protect, like you know, in society, right? And like growing up in like a Black culture and environment. And I remember like the interactions, and one thing that I remember, regardless of who was on that street, like the drug dealers never mess with the kids who were the great basketball players, the great sports players. Like we saw that as like, no, this is gonna be our opportunity. This is gonna be our
That's
freedom, right? Yeah, that's the out, right? So you didn't mess with them. And now I feel like we're in that mindset now where it doesn't matter what it is. It's still never going to obtain like true freedom of mindset, freedom of just saying, I am enough. This is enough. My family's done enough. You know what I mean? Like the legacy is like always at stake.
Right. And so to that point, I feel like Smoke and Stack, Ryan Coogler, what he was trying to show there was really explaining how the angry Black man evolved.
Oh yeah.
And it was never that he was lazy and incompetent, didn't have ability.
Right.
It was like at every turn, when he did accomplish something, when he did do something, he was rejected. And so then you shut down his options, and then boom, this is what you get. But then you say, oh, he's lazy, irresponsible, immoral. But now you created that.
True.
Yeah. And profit off of it.
And then you profit off of it. So we think about that, and we begin to cultivate ourselves and build upon that idea, because we can become aware of intergenerational trauma, y'all. We have to challenge the things we think every day. We have to ask ourselves why we're here. We have to stop and really understand that we are worthy and deserving, and we can do good, and we're not stuck in a space where we can't move. We got to push past all of that, man. Because we are wonderfully made.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are wonderfully made. But check this out. One other question I got for y'all, and this is about Coogler. Like, do you think with Smoke and Stack, right? Obviously, they were two different characters. But what's the possibility they represented one person and he was trying to show both sides of the person's character or inner personality?
Almost kind of like this, the duality of an individual.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
there's two sides to people. That, I mean, that's an interesting concept. I know they were intentional about the twins aspect because he had some real life twins study with Michael B. Jordan just to understand the mentality of that. But you know, I personally know some twins, and it's like, especially the identical twins. You know, I feel like there's such a strong connection with them. They almost like one person at times. You know, the ones who really like connect on that twinism. They kind of almost like innately like share their minds at times. You know, so it's that's a deep concept.
I think it, like, if you're thinking about it and you're trying to show like different aspects, it makes sense, right? Because these are two who can relate. They have the same experiences, right? But even in that, where it's like, yeah, you've had like the same experiences, but how one was impacted versus another, how one thought versus another, even though you grew up in the same household, same parents, right? The same exposure to things, right? That comes into play. And I think that's a perfect way to like showcase that. Like, people can have the same experience and be impacted completely differently.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so y'all so eloquently spoke points. One of the things that fascinated me about that was, yes, it could just be two twins, but it also, I feel like it could be an individual with struggling with in their internal and external motivations and desires. And so what happens is the Smoke, perhaps he's the external personality because Smoke is the protector. Or he shows up. But
as a protector in the
but Stack, he is more the playful, kiddish side. And look, I want to have fun. I want to do these things, right? You know, he's more, I already said, impulsive. So you see this struggle and you realize that a lot of us, man, we have these type of struggles. So I was, I don't want to get deep off into it because I want to do a podcast on this one day. But I read a lot of different things, and one of the things I found fascinating was reading some stuff on the Winnebago Native Americans. And what I found fascinating was their stories about heroes. And they have a hare, which is hare. They have a trickster, which is a trickster is the very immature stage of being a hero. Then you move to the hare, and the hare is a healer. They figure out how to solve problems, but they still slightly immature. And then when you get to the next stage, it's the horn blower, I believe, or red horn. And red horn has almost mastered his gifts and talents. And he may get bored. And then as you move from there, you move to what is called the twins. But the twins is one person, but the twin struggles with their identity. And if they get too confident or too arrogant, the twin then begins to get off into mischief and has to be brought back in check by the community. So when I look at Smoke and Stack, I see two young men that actually fit the idea of a hero, not necessarily in the sense of the American sense, because of how we normally play out heroes. But when you begin to look beyond the American culture, you realize that heroes don't always succeed.
That's true.
Don't always succeed. And so in some cultures, the lessons of their failures is important because the lessons of their failures actually help them become better.
It tells the full story.
It tells the full story. Well, when we make our heroes, we like, oh, they figured out a way
always came out on
top. But that's not where the hero story came from. And in fact, hero stories are actually one of the major archetypes in all human stories. You'll find it, heroes in some shape, form, or fashion.
True.
Very true. Very, very true.
Like, so look, that story of Jonah. See, he was rebellious, didn't want to do what he was supposed to do, right?
Yep.
In the belly of the whale.
In the belly of the whale. So he was in the belly of the whale. That was a process for him to mature and him to grow. Because he wasn't really ready.
Right.
He had to learn something. He was being hubris. He was being arrogant and thought he could just make the decision about what he wanted to do because he was mad at someone. But that's natural for humans to feel that way. But anyway.
No, it's true.
That's nuggets.
No, but I think I in thinking about that, even thinking about the fact of like, can you really truly be a hero without challenge? You know what I mean? What tests your heroism if not a challenge, if not something that you have to like fight against or, you know, overcome or conquer.
Exactly. And so what you said about that is so true, because I think that's the essence of the hero. Is that you actually face something. You get to that point and you realize that I'm going to not run from it, but I'm going to stand up to it and I am going to do what I need to do. Sink or swim, I'm going to do what I need to do.
Right.
And I think that's what Stack and Smoke represented. Look, we done been through a whole lot of stuff. We done been to the wars, we done been to Chicago, we done been to all these places, and here we are. We still trying to represent.
That's a good way to be able to sum them up.
No, it is.
Good way. Any other thoughts, opinions, ideas?
I'm surprised you didn't do a song today.
Oh, I represent. I represent. About it.
I said, it was good. This is going to be the first one he got through without dropping a song.
Oh, shucks, man. Good.
Nah,
I guess.
It was good.
Yeah, it was good. All right, y'all. Well, if y'all have any thoughts, opinions, and ideas, please drop your comments in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe and like us. And as always, look, take thinking, feeling, and experiencing well-being. Be intentional in your thoughts. Deal with your feelings so you can have a life that you feel good about. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.